My name is Peristu Imami, and I'm the host of The Road to Success for Your Highly Sensitive Child. This is about empowering parents of highly sensitive children to nurture their child's unique personality trait and create a path to success. Our podcast provides guidance, insights, and support to help you unlock your child's full potential, fostering resilience, confidence, and a bright future. If you're new to my podcast, please go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 because they provide information on high sensitivity that all subsequent episodes will build upon. If you skip these episodes, you won't get as much out of this and all subsequent episodes. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com. If you're looking for a talented portrait photographer, I highly recommend Laurie Bishop of Become Studios. Check her website out at www.becomebeseen.com. I have that website on my podcast description as well if you want to check it out. Today, we're going to explore a topic that often comes up in our conversation with parents, understanding the differences and similarities between autistic children and highly sensitive children. This is a topic that can be quite confusing for parents, especially when you see overlapping traits like sensory sensitivities, social challenges, or a need for routine. So let's unpack this with empathy and clarity. Joining me today is my amazing producer, Mr. Ahmad Rashad. Welcome, Ahmad. Thank you for joining me today. And for my listeners, I know that you have listened to my previous episode where I had Ahmad on talking about high sensitivity and his experience being a highly sensitive person, parenting a highly sensitive child. If you have not listened to that episode, definitely check it out. He is amazing. And I'm really grateful to you, Ahmad, for agreeing to come and talk to me again about the differences between high sensitivity and autism, because I find this to be very prominent when talking to parents. A lot of times parents come to me and say, oh, the school thinks my child is autistic. And, I've been working with them for quite some time, so I know the child is not autistic. And so, since I'm not a doctor, I always advise them to work with their physician. But I tell them what my opinion is, being an expert in high sensitivity. So let's kind of unpack that together for the listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me back. I'm back again.
You are so awesome. I love having you on this show.
I feel like I'm going to be this reoccurring guest for you, like one of those CNN contributors.
Yes,
so
absolutely. And before you know it, we'll be podcasting together. We'll be
right. Let's do it. But yeah, but I really like this topic because I didn't know, obviously, any of your listeners who want to go back and understand my story, to go back to the episode that I was on, but I was not aware that I was highly sensitive until you and I met and we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So I've gone through most of my life, thinking like, why am I so different? Why am I the black sheep, growing up in my family and stuff like that, right? So why am I who I am,
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, like, why do people say I'm special and so unique, but at the same time, people would draw away from me, it was just weird. It's like I got these high compliments, but then also people just couldn't necessarily attach themselves to me, right? So obviously, when I had my son, I saw things in him that I remembered what I went through,
Yeah.
and like, man, you are just like your dad. Like the things that bother him, the way that he thinks,
Mhm.
how he sees the world,
Mhm.
and it was amazing. So like one of the first signs that I knew that he was uniquely different. There were two signs that when he was younger. One was he would I'm gonna say the second. I'm gonna say this from the second. The first one was teachers would tell me when he was like in second grade, first grade, that he would know the right time to give them a hug.
Aw.
He always knew that I needed a hug and I didn't have to say anything. Like he
Mm.
just knew I always had a bad day. Like if I had a bad day, he just knew it. He said it's
Yeah.
just amazing that he just has this thing that he would just come up to me and just give me a hug.
Aw.
And
Love that.
he's still like that today, right?
That's so
And
cool.
he's just so super aware. He's always aware of that. And that was the first sign. And I was just like, okay, he's just like me, right? And then another thing was, the sensory thing, where it was like he would hold a note at the top of his lungs and just hold it for like as long as he could hold his breath. I mean,
Wow.
it was like just I mean, and he would hold it,
Wow.
right? And he did this for like when he was like maybe 3 or 4 years old. This is when he was doing it, and it would bother teachers, students. We would go to church, and it was, and I was like, Prince, you can't do that. Stop. Be quiet. Like, and again,
Wow.
it's like it's a mystery to me because I don't know my situation and I obviously don't know his, but I know for sure it was not autism. You know,
Yeah.
this is what people would um say. They would say, like, I think your son is autistic. I think he's autistic. And I'm like, no, he's not. I mean, he would also he would they were saying that he was soothing himself because he would do things with his hands, you
Mhm.
know. I know where this is audio, but like the way that he would do his hands, like he would do things like karate chops,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and and they was like, yeah, he is soothing himself, is what they would say. Like they said that him his noise would him holding a note would be him soothing himself. These karate chop moves was him soothing himself. Even whenever the fire alarm would go off, they were saying like, yeah, he's autistic because he freaks out when he hears a fire alarm. And I
Mhm.
would like say like, no, that is not it. I'm like, I remember as a kid freaking out because of the fire alarm. And as a matter of fact, because I work with the youth, they all freak out when they hear the fire alarm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
comes out of nowhere, and it's like,
Yeah.
but my son, he would freak out and cry and have and really be struggling with that. And so to make the long story short, I fought against this. I mean, we had friends that would tell us like, hey, he was autistic, and I would say, no, he's not. And my wife, she's like, well, maybe we should get him tested. And it's like, he doesn't need to be. I said, it's a money grab.
Yeah.
I was like, they're going to find a way to put him in here. I said, we got to be careful. Um, I said, he's just like me. He's just like me because I remember when I was a kid, I had sensory issues where I would be in one room and I swear the television would be louder than what the actual volume was. And I
Yeah.
would go into the living room and say, can you turn the TV down? And they would say, it's only like at volume 7. But in my ears, it sounded like it was at like the top.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's in my ears. Like I hear it.
Yeah.
So obviously, so now let me put um practical what my son was really doing after I fought against this autism. And I'll share with you all the things that I did to kind of help back it up to help parents that are dealing with this too. But so ultimately, what my son was doing with the karate chopping was he was just imitating things that he was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So, for an example, if he saw windshield wipers, he
Mm-hmm.
just was imitating windshield wipers, but it
Mm-hmm.
didn't look like windshield wipers to us. He's doing the
Yeah.
best way that he could, so it looked like karate chops.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the him holding a note and yelling was because he loves music, and to him, he thinks he was doing do re mi fa sol la ti do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, he's not doing that in real life. But today he has perfect pitch,
Mm.
and he plays the piano, he plays the violin, he
Wow.
plays the xylophone, and he started picking up the guitar, and he has a drum set that we just got not too long ago as well.
Oh my God.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
super talented. Oh my God.
I'm telling you. And the thing is, he picked up the violin on day one and played Jingle Bells. They're preparing for a Christmas
Yeah.
concert. He picked up the violin on day one this year. The day that he learned Jingle Bells, this is the same day that he played it on the violin.
Wow.
They're
That's so
asking him to
impressive.
do the solo. They're asking him to do the solo.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, so that's a huge part of being highly sensitive. You're extremely creative person as a highly sensitive person. Your creativity can show up in different ways because there's a lot of different ways of being creative.
Right.
A lot of people are musicians, some are artistic, some are great singers. Um, there's just some are really good at writing poems without any training. My younger brother is like that. Even when he was
Mm.
little, his cards to my parents were all written by himself, and they were all poems, and they were
Wow.
beautifully written, even though he was super, super young. So everybody, all highly sensitive people are creative.
Mm.
And they're creative to different degrees and with different things. And it sounds like your son, Prince, is a great, his creativity is in music and various instruments. That's amazing how many instruments he already knows how to play at this young age.
Yeah, he could just pick it up and play it because basically once you learn the location of the notes and you understand the fundamentals of how to, strum the strings or hold the instrument, then you're good.
Mhm.
And since he has perfect pitch and he's super coachable and his memory is off the charts,
Yeah.
then he can pick up an instrument and play it not perfectly because he has, it takes hard work to get it to perfection, but he plays it well enough that if you hear it, you're like, this guy is a genius.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah, because
really
it's because I
amazing.
mean, to play the violin and to make sure that the string doesn't streak, and the fact that he's figured out how to do that so quickly, where he can play a full. He's played 4 songs, 5 songs already on the violin, complete songs, and I'm not
Wow.
talking about like the first verse. He's like the second verse. He's like
Wow.
the advanced versions of like he played "Ode to Joy" and he's doing the second verse of Ode to Joy. That's not in any kid beginner book.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
and,
that.
and the strings are not screeching as much. It's like you might get like 2 or 3 streaks for a whole song.
Yeah.
Like,
And and that the other thing I bet that's contributing, what we talked about earlier, where he's so in tune with
yeah,
his teachers, that's
yeah,
because he is able to pick up on other people's energy. And
yeah.
and so I bet you that also helps him with learning various instruments and being a better musician because he can pick up the subtleties in the various, in the changes in the notes and everything. I'm
Yeah.
not a musician, so I don't know the terminologies to use,
No, but you're
but
right. You're right.
I bet you anything that under that ability for him to notice subtle changes really helps him be a better musician, which is
Right.
also a
And
part
it
of being
makes
highly
sense.
sensitive.
Yeah, it makes sense because I think music is a great example of how someone who is highly sensitive pays attention to those subtleties because
Yeah.
in order to play the piano, there are different subtleties than playing the violin, and
Yes,
the
absolutely.
drums is different subtleties. And he is playing these instruments with those different subtleties where there are adults that are looking at it who are musicians and they're saying, okay, this kid has a gift. I remember when he played the piano at his school Christmas program last year, and there was a musician sitting next to me, and he said, "Your son is gifted,"
Mm.
because he did a solo on the piano, and he did a duet with the teacher. The teacher played the violin, and he played the piano, and they played both verses of Silent Night,
Wow.
and they did it together.
And that's
Um,
a hard song
it
too.
is not easy, no. So yeah, so he did that. My son is also playing with the adults at church
Hmm.
on the keys. You know,
Wow.
so when the kid choir performs, he'll learn their song,
Mhm.
and he's the only child on stage playing an instrument with the elementary kids with the adults.
Wow, that's amazing.
And people may say like, well, no, my kid can play too, or whatever. Like, no, like they don't provide sheet music to learn the music. They have to hear. They learn listening to it by ear. That's the only
Yeah.
way you can play in church. Is you're playing with other musicians who say, okay, here's the song. This is what we're playing. Come back next week and we're gonna practice. So Prince has like 2 weeks to practice the song. Find where he needs to go. He needs to listen to his instrument through the instrumentation and figure out his pocket,
Hmm.
go in, and then he'll play. And then the adults will say, okay, I see what you're playing, Prince. We'll play around that. And then they'll say, okay, Prince, can you do this instead? Can you do this chord, do that chord? Go to, do this, do that. And he's like, okay. And he's doing,
Wow,
you know,
that's
and
amazing.
yeah, it is super amazing. And he's still learning a lot because the piano is so much to learn.
Yeah.
And if I was a musician, he would be so much further along. But because I'm not, he can only learn at the pace of how often he is around musicians.
Hmm.
So one of the things he prefers Minecraft more than anything else. So he can tell you everything about Minecraft right now.
Hmm.
Uh, so but he's still a 10-year-old. So he, practicing and all of that. You still have to remind him to practice. He still doesn't have that full passion to play music to a level of maybe some like prodigy kids might, but whenever he does pick up the instrument, it's a piece of cake to him. It's like it's nothing.
That's amazing. I
Yeah, it
feel
is.
like maybe going back to what they said when he was, playing or singing a note, that could be perceived as something that soothes your nervous system because
Mm-hmm.
that is part of. I teach somatic practices to soothe the child's nervous system, and that's part of it.
Right.
But you can't look at something in just in a bubble and then say, okay, because this person is doing X, then they're autistic. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
can't also look at it and say, oh, because they're holding a note, that means they're soothing themselves. You have to look at the entire picture. You can't
Correct.
look at something and just hone in on that particular thing that a child is doing and judge based, make a judgment based on that one thing. You have to,
Correct.
like, what was the child doing before? What did they see before that? Are they needing to soothe their nervous system? Maybe yes, maybe not, because you
Right.
can be singing when you're happy. You don't need to be singing when you can sing. Singing is a way of soothing your nervous system, but it's not the only reason that you would sing. It's not the
Right.
same thing goes for humming. Humming is a great way to soothe your nervous system, but you can hum when you're happy too, when you don't need your
Correct.
nervous system to be regulated. So,
Right. And see, and I guess I share with you some of the things that I did to defend my son against the label of being autistic because some professionals did when we did go through the route of of testing my son to see if he can go into get some special services is what they call it. So my son, he's always been in private school.
Mhm.
He's always been in Montessori schools. That's what we had him in early on. So we've never had him in a public school until this particular situation came about. And and that's when I learned when they were, interviewing my son that they do want the child to fit so many categories. So when they looked at Mason, they actually said that he had some traits that could relate to autistic kids, but he didn't have enough traits for them to put him into the program.
Mhm.
And it was like it was up to me and Toya to say, okay, go ahead and put him into the program. And and we put him in there for 2 weeks, and my son said he hated it, and he was like 3 years old.
Oh yeah, and that's the best part
Yeah,
of having a highly sensitive child is that they're amazing at communicating, even if they don't have, if they are not speaking yet, even
yeah,
if they're at the age where they don't have enough vocabulary, but they will definitely show you through their actions, through their body language, that they don't like a
yeah,
particular thing.
yeah.
Do
He
you
he didn't like it
recall?
at all. Yeah, he
Do
didn't
you
like it at
recall what they were saying? What were they saying? Like what traits did they see in him that they thought that
all.
done this better?
Man, I have to go and find the paperwork,
So just
it was just it was things that um I mean, it was stuff that I could fight against.
Mhm.
Like they were saying stuff like he has good attention, but it could be a little bit better.
Got it.
So it was mostly derived into focus, really. And I was just like, and I said, he focuses on Super Mario Brothers.
Mhm.
I said at the time when he was playing, I said he has no problem focusing on Hot Wheels.
Mhm.
He has no problem focusing on the accelerator needle on my car. He has no focus issue when he's drawing and coloring and so I was like, so I said he has no focus problem
Mhm.
because of that. I said if he had a problem focusing, then it would be across the board. And
Yeah.
I know people say, well, professionally, it doesn't mean that. No, it means what are you interested in shows me your focus.
Yeah, and the other thing is if a child is not able to focus in school
Mm-hmm.
or in like a, let's say if they're at a caregiver, not they're not at the age that they're going to school per se, but let's say it's at a caregiver or school, it's because they're not feeling safe at
That could
that.
be it too. Yeah. Come on
So
now.
a lot of the times it's because there's something going on at that school where the child is not feeling safe. I'm not saying physically safe. It's
Right.
also be emotionally, like
Right.
if the person is too harsh, because remember that highly sensitive people don't like people who are very harsh and
Mm-hmm.
abrasive.
Yeah, that's good.
They like to have the tender, caring, nurturing way of being talked to. So even
Right.
as an adult, believe me, even as an adult, if somebody talks to me in a harsh way, I just can't. I
Yeah.
don't
I'm
like it.
shut
I
down.
mean,
You can shut down.
I
Yeah.
just don't like it. And I go into this, I don't even listen to them anymore because I'm like, how dare they talk to me in this way, And
Right.
um, yeah, so for me, even as an adult, that would definitely get me in that. But just imagine as a child, you haven't developed a lot of these skills, right?
That's right.
Um, and so you just want to make sure that you understand like what's going on in that school with the child. So the other thing that there's certain commonalities, common characteristics that you see with autistic children and highly sensitive children, but they're very different when you look at it from an autistic perspective. Like, for example, if a child has social communication challenges,
Mm-hmm.
it could be looked at as being autistic because autistic children have difficulty with back and forth conversations, understanding social cues, or making eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
A child who's highly sensitive may show these things if they're not feeling safe. They
Right.
may not look at the person when they're talking to them because in their mind, they're like, I don't, you stay away from me because I don't trust you. You're like talking to me in a mean fashion and I don't like that, so I'm going to not engage with you. It's very different than autistic children
Mm-hmm.
because this needs to be the same in an environment where they feel safe. If they behave that way in an environment that they feel safe, like at home, then okay, you might need to test them to see if they have autism or not, because high sensitivity, children who are highly sensitive, it's a personality trait. But whereas autism is a medical issue. So it's
Yes.
very different. Having a personality trait versus a medical issue, two different things.
Right.
Yes, you might have the same things like liking routine. Autistic children like routine, so do highly sensitive children.
Yes.
But that in itself doesn't mean that you are autistic. Um,
Right.
so that's why I always tell my clients it's so much easier for you to find out if your child is highly sensitive or not. It's like a test that you take. It's 5 minutes with me, and you know it. You know whether your child is autistic or not. I mean, sorry, highly sensitive or not. Versus autism. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend that I'm the expert on autism, but I know enough to know that that can be a very extensive testing.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's a spectrum, there's a range that you could have um, you could have very little traits of autism, or you could have a lot of the traits of autism.
Correct.
Why
Yes.
there's a spectrum. Whereas with high sensitivity, there's no spectrum. Either you're highly sensitive or
Or
you're not.
you're not.
There's no
Right.
in between. And
Yes.
also, again, since it's a personality trait and it's a genetic personality trait, uh,
Correct.
you are normally, I mean, not normally, either one of your parents or both would have to be highly sensitive as well. So because it is a genetic personality trait. Um, and then so tell me a little bit more about oh, and one more thing. They do have also so one thing that autistic children have that highly sensitive children don't have is repetitive behaviors. This could be repetitive movements, like hand flapping or
Yeah.
insisting on specific routines. Um, or for example, I had one friend who had an autistic child who all day long, all she did was print, just like print different things from on the printer, and it could be the
Okay.
same thing over and over again all day long.
Mm.
So a highly sensitive person or child does not have a repetitive
Yeah, we need diverse creativity.
yeah, we definitely get bored if there's
Yeah,
anything repetitive. Yes, we do like routine. We must have routine, especially as a child,
I know
because
what you mean.
that
Not
helps.
like OCD, you know,
Yeah,
this repetition of the
yeah,
same,
yeah, yeah,
like we're
yeah,
stuck in the same
yeah.
pattern.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that you have the power to create a bright and successful future for your highly sensitive child. Embrace their uniqueness, nurture their strengths, and provide them with the love and support they need. Together, we can pave a path to success that aligns with their sensitivity. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, you're not alone on this journey. We'll be here with more insights and inspiration in our next episode. Until then, keep believing in your child's potential because they truly are extraordinary. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and stay committed to setting your child up for success in life. To book a private coaching session with me, please visit my website at parentinghsc.com.